Anna used to think her problem was simple. She wasn't lazy, and she wasn't disorganized. She was just tired. Tired of opening her phone for a quick look and resurfacing half an hour later, feeling strangely foggy, as if someone had quietly pulled the curtain over her mind. One moment, she'd be checking a message. The next, she'd be caught in a stream of posts, alerts, videos, headlines, little fragments of other people's lives. Nothing dramatic, nothing urgent, just enough to steal the shape of her afternoon. And maybe that sounds familiar, because for a lot of us, distraction doesn't arrive like a crash. It arrives like a habit, a reflex, a tiny movement of the thumb that feels harmless until all at once, the day is gone. Anna started noticing it in the small moments. Sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of tea growing cold, staring at her laptop, trying to remember what she'd opened it for, walking into a room and forgetting why she was there. It wasn't that her mind had broken. It was that it never seemed to fully settle anywhere. There was always another tab, another notification, another pull. And that's where the real question began to form. Was she actually choosing any of this, or had her attention become something other people could buy and sell? The uncomfortable truth is that distraction is not just a personal weakness. It's a design feature. Modern apps are built to keep you guessing, checking, returning. They use little bursts of novelty, unpredictable rewards, and endless refresh cycles to keep your brain leaning forward, just waiting for the next hit of something interesting. Not always joy, not always meaning, just novelty, just enough to make it hard to stop. That's what makes it so slippery. Your brain doesn't need to love every notification to get hooked by it. It only needs to wonder. And once that wondering starts, focus begins to fray. Anna didn't need a lecture about discipline. She needed to understand the game she was playing. Because once you see how attention is being captured, the whole story changes. You stop blaming yourself for every lost hour. You start asking better questions. What exactly is pulling me in? Why is it so hard to look away? And what would it take to take my mind back? That's where this really begins. Anna used to think the problem was simple. She just needed more willpower. Less scrolling, more discipline. Easier said than done. Her phone would sit there in her hand like a harmless little habit. And then somehow, half an hour would vanish. She'd open one app to check one thing, then another alert would appear, then another, and by the time she looked up, the room felt different. Quieter, smaller, like part of her day had been quietly stolen. And that's the tricky part, isn't it? Distraction doesn't always arrive looking dramatic. Most of the time, it shows up as a tiny itch, a quick glance, a harmless check. But the brain is built to notice novelty, and modern apps have become experts at feeding that instinct. A message, like a fresh headline, a new video, a little red dot waiting on the screen, it all creates the sense that something important might be happening just out of reach. That uncertainty is powerful. When rewards come unpredictably, the mind leans in harder. It's the same reason a slot machine is so hard to ignore. Not because every pull pays off, but because the next one might. Your attention starts chasing possibility. And once that loop begins, it's not just a bad habit anymore. It becomes a pattern. Check, reward, repeat, check again, wait, refresh, repeat. Anna started noticing how often she reached for her phone without even deciding to. In the kitchen, in the lift, during ads, while waiting for the kettle, sometimes even mid-conversation, just to see if anything new had appeared. And she wasn't proud of it, but she wasn't alone either. That's what made it unsettling. This wasn't laziness. It wasn't a character flaw. It was a system that had learned how to fragment a human mind and keep it coming back. The more she understood that, the less she blamed herself. Instead, she began asking better questions. What exactly was pulling my attention? What am I really looking for when I unlock the screen? Relief? Comfort? A break from discomfort? Those questions changed everything. Because once you can see the mechanism, you can start to interrupt it. And that's where the real battle begins, not with grand gestures, but with small, deliberate choices that reclaim a little bit of mental space at a time. The kind that slowly teach your brain there's something better than constant interruption. So the question isn't really whether you can get your focus back. It's whether you're willing to defend it, little by little, in a world that keeps trying to take it from you. Anna began to understand that attention wasn't something she'd lost forever. It had been fragmented, chipped away in tiny moments she barely noticed. A glance at the screen, a quick reply, one more notification, one more minute that somehow turned into half an hour. But once she saw the pattern clearly, it stopped feeling mysterious, and that made it easier to challenge. She started making small changes first. Nothing dramatic. No fantasy of becoming a different person overnight. Just a cleaner desk. The phone left in another room during meals. Notifications turned off one by one. She stopped reaching for distraction the moment boredom appeared, and instead let those quiet gaps exist. At first, it felt uncomfortable, almost too quiet, like stepping into a room after a storm and realizing how loud your own thoughts can be. But slowly, the noise began to settle. And that's the part people don't always talk about. Focus doesn't just help you get more done. It gives you back a sense of ownership over your day. You read a full page and remember it. You finish a conversation without mentally drifting somewhere else. You sit with one task and feel your mind resist less. That's not a small thing. That's a return to yourself. Of course, no one escapes this completely. The devices are still there. The temptations are still there. The system hasn't changed. But you can change your relationship to it. You can build habits that protect your mind instead of handing it over every 5 minutes. You can make room for deep work, for stillness, for real attention. And maybe that's the real rebellion here. Not cutting yourself off from the modern world, but refusing to let it own your inner one. If this story hit close to home, give the video a like. And tell me, honestly, when was the last time you sat down and truly focused on just one thing without checking your phone? If you want more videos like this, where we unpack the hidden forces shaping how we think and behave, subscribe and stay with us. There's a lot more to see and even more to reclaim.